Hello YouTube, Great RJ1 here, and today I'll be doing my version of Palpatine in Battlefront 2. Now I know he's in Battlefront 2, but this is my concept for him, and I feel like he would be much more unique to what we actually have in the game. So let's get to it, shall we? So, Palpatine would probably be the most unique hero in the game, as his uniqueness was sort of taken up by the droids, because he used force lightning and then his electricity was basically taken away from him in place for the droids. Now, it wasn't really taken from him, but it was basically quite similar, because they use a shock pod, which is basically electricity. So this version of Palpatine that I have will be very different to what we actually have in the actual game. So first off, he would have a block. Now this is quite different from the game because he does not have a block in the game. Now the block would actually be quite vital to his play style, because without it he'd be pretty much powerless, and you would not have his unlimited power, you could so say. So how vital is this block? Well, it will charge up the amount of damage his lightning will put out. Now the block button will be the block, the attack button will control both hands and be the attack button. The attack button will only deal 10 damage when it's not charged, and there will be a charge meter above his stamina, and yes, he would use stamina. So this is already a bit unique, you could say. Now there would be a either percentage or damage counter above the stamina, which would basically tell you how much damage he would deal. Now at maxed out, it would really depend if you're using a star card, but it should deal, but it doesn't really have a limit, so you can deal as much damage as you can. Now the block would be pretty overpowered, so it probably would have gotten a nerf anyway if you're going by my version, and basically he'd be able to block anything, even block breakers, and he basically would have he would not have a 360 degree block, but he would be able to block explosions, or basically anything that would usually be a unblockable attack. Now this already seems pretty overpowered for Palpatine, but if he charges up his lightning enough, he can one-shot basically heroes, but that would take quite a while. So yeah, and the counter to hit on this power of lightning would be that the longer you use the lightning, the more the power will decrease. Now no matter how high you have it, it will either decrease slower or faster depending on how high his damage output is. If it's quite high, then it will decrease faster, because it will and his normal damage without the charge up will be 10. However, it can be increased with star cards, which would improve it. So you have to be blocking with Palpatine if you even want to be somewhat effective, really. So this already sounds a bit unique already, if you're asking me. But for an extra bonus, you could say, the more damage you have for his lightning, basically the more powerful he can become, but also the less powerful he becomes as well. Because the power will go immediately back to 10 if he runs out of stamina. However, it can be saved up if you don't use up all your stamina, so it's quite important that you don't use all the stamina, otherwise you're going to have to recharge that stamina back, which when you're Palpatine in this version of my Palpatine is quite vital, because the more damage and stamina you have, the more you can attack and be more effective. So if you have low damage output, it will take longer for your damage to go down. Now it would not really take longer, it could take about the same time as the more, but it would take a little longer because you have less damage. If it was more damage, then you'll go down quite faster, at least in damage. The less damage you have, the sort of slower it would go down, because it would be like, say it would be like 100 damage going down per second if you have like 1000 damage ready, and then if it was like 10 damage then it would be like 1 damage per second. You get the idea. So basically the higher your damage is, the more damage you'll lose for the higher amount it is. So he has a lot of health, so he's pretty strong already, but also pretty weak, because his weaknesses are quite powerful for him, so you have to be a bit cautious. Now, the only way to really attack him when he's not blocking is by hitting him from the back. Now, but he would also have about a health of about some point between 750 or 900. Yeah, it would be about 700 or 750, basically similar to what he has in game. So this would be not quite high. If not, he'd have about 800 health, which is Anakin and Vader's health. Now this already sounds quite overpowered, but here's his abilities. And his health recovery would be about the normal 250. So really, he's going to be a bit hard to take out, a bit like Vader. Now his dash would be basically the same as it is in the game. Forwards is his spin, but still. Now let's get into his abilities. His left ability would be basically his chain lightning, and it would just be called chain lightning. Basically what it would do is basically what it does in the game. His lightning goes around basically any enemy in the area and chains to all of them. Now I did have this idea where it's like the lightning also has basically like the chain lightning effect, but it also can give off like Dooku's lightning stun, but that's really up to you and which one you prefer. So I'm just going to go with the chain lightning, just so he doesn't seem too overpowered. The damage would be about the same in the game, which is about 120, and the cooldown, it would be some point between, it would probably be about 30 seconds, because for how powerful he is, he does need a bit of a long cooldown. And his stamina recovery would be some point between something, you could say his stamina delay could be something like probably 3 or 5 seconds. So for how powerful he is, he really needs kind of major weaknesses. But for how powerful he would be, then it doesn't really matter, because he's already pretty weak if you're not charging up your lightning. So yeah. So his middle ability would be called Lightning Storm. Now basically any enemies in a 360-degree radius with probably a slightly larger radius of Luke's repulse would be basically will cause a lightning storm to be cast upon all the enemies, and this would be another version of basically the chain lightning. This one would be unblockable though, so he does have some sort of attack to break through blocks. It would probably deal 150 damage, if not 200 damage. So he is quite powerful like that. So you can already see how powerful he already is. However, for how powerful this ability would be, along with how powerful he actually is, it would have around another 30-second cooldown. Now he would have, like the Emperor Vitiate, Guides I did, or Valkyrian, whichever one you prefer, he would have a toggle thing, but it wouldn't count as an ability. But anyway, so his right and final ability would be his Force Scream. Now, you know the spin he did in Revenge of the Sith, and he casts out a noise. The noise was called a Force Scream. Now, this could actually be controllable at which distance you go at. Now, it would last the amount of time that the dash actually lasted, along with the Force Scream. So what this would basically do, if you're in walking, it would only send you the amount of space he went in Revenge of the Sith, and this would be more useful on maps that have a lot of ledges. However, if you press sprint, he would go a much farther distance. This could be helpful if you were trying to escape on a map without ledges. So and you basically weren't able to regen much of the health. So this can be a useful ability, and you'll go much further if you hold down sprint. So It's already midway. Anyways, I think it's time to get onto the star cards, and the dash would be really his only form of a lot of speed, you could say. So he would end up basically just, so he would end up with, because this would be his only form of escaping at a fast speed, so it'd have about either a 10-second cooldown or 15, so this would be his shortest cooldown. And really, I think it would only be fair, since his power is quite overpowered and that he can get and yeah, you could set it up to a 30-second cooldown as well, but then if he changes all the abilities, you'll be looking at 1 minute and 30-second cooldown, which for Palpatine would not be too good, because yes, while he charges up his lightning, and by the way, when he blocks, no matter what he blocks, his stamina will not go down. And yeah, this would be his only form of defense. Now, the lightsaber combat, he'll be able to toggle between the lightsaber combat, and if he uses melee in it, he can switch to both sabers. But if he presses the melee again, he will switch back to one saber. You could block quite a lot of blaster bolts and saber attacks. You'd probably be able to block 20 blaster bolts and saber attacks. You probably just have the same stamina amounts as Obi-Wan, but the lightsaber blocking stamina would also be converted over to the attacking stamina. So yeah, this is also another way to sort of balance out how fans would basically react, because I know a lot of fans would prefer him to have a lightsaber, and I know a lot of fans would prefer him to have force lightning. So this is just sort of another way to balance it out, and really I think this would also be a neat way. So yeah, he is quite powerful already, but let's look at the star cards I have chosen for him. Now one of these star cards will basically just be the same as the normal star cards. Lightning Reach, its lightning attacks have increased range by 30%. Now I might have picked to either 50, but who knows, so it would be basically just the same values, 15% at the first stage, 20 for the second, 25 for the third, and 30 for the fourth. Now here's when it basically begins to change. In place of the second star card will basically be his lightning, would basically probably be called the power of lightning or something like that, and basically would just increase the amount of damage his lightning can do by default without being charged up. Now this would really help him out at the first stage. It would be at so at the first stage it would be by 20 damage, the second stage would be 30, third stage would be 40, and the last stage would be 50, so he could increase his normal lightning damage to 50%. And when playing as Palpatine, this would basically help if you have no time to charge up your lightning. So yes, this would actually help him out a bit if you have no time to charge up your lightning, because if you're surrounded, so this could help getting rid of a lot of enemies if you don't have chain lightning, which just have a rather lengthy cooldown. Now his third star card would be called probably something like, I don't know. If you want to, you can suggest a name in the comments, because I can't quite figure it out right now. And and the lightning and his lightsaber cooldown will not actually have a cooldown, because it's more of a toggle, and you can change it in the menus, and then that would just change to lightning. So just saying. Anyways, the third star card would be something I don't really know what to call it, and basically this would reduce his cooldown times, so he would have shorter cooldowns on basically all his abilities, his health and his stamina. So for Palpatine, this is sort of already overpowering him, but there is one more star card that would basically really help him out no matter what. So yeah, anyways, for Palpatine, it would go from it would basically be a 5-second reduction up to a 10-second reduction to a 15-second reduction to a 20-second reduction. Now, for the dash, this will not get affected, but for its stamina and health, this would help, but because of 3 seconds cooldown, this would be reduced over to 2 seconds for the health, and the stamina recovery cooldown would also be 3 seconds, so that would also be reduced to 2. Now, the cooldowns, well, they'd be reduced to 10 seconds, however, I might bring it back up a bit to 20 seconds, so it could be from 3 seconds, 5, to 8 to 10, so yeah, I think a 20 seconds cooldown would be better for his abilities, and it would still keep at 2 seconds for his stamina and health. The dash would not get affected though, so yeah, so it would probably say all the cooldowns, but it doesn't actually do it. So you could say like something like unlimited power. You could say. So that would probably be what it's called. Now the next star card would be probably changing the vibration for the name, you could say, and basically this would increase the amount of enemies it would be able to hit, along with increasing the damage quite slightly. So this would be useful if you're in a hero mode, not to chain more enemies but for the extra damage. Now his extra damage would be going from 130 to 135, 140 to 145. Now this would be about this would help his chain lining, and the amount of enemies he'd be able to hit would go from 1, then 2, and then you'd probably go up to, yeah, it'd probably just reach up to 5, so 1, you could say 2, 3, 4, 5, a bit like how this is. So yeah, so this could help in a trooper mode, but I think the last star card would probably be its most powerful card, which is also why it would be a level 20 star cards to unlock. You have to reach level 20 with him, because it would really change how powerful he is, and I will be going over what star cards will probably be the best to use. So now we're on to this card. Now this one would probably be something like, I don't know what to name this. So yeah, basically this would just increase the range of his lightning storm, which is also increase the amount of enemies that can get hit. So this does really help him. By the way, it would deal 200 damage to basically the infantry, and the dash would actually be a bit more powerful than you'd expect. The dash ability, sorry, I kept on forgetting a couple things. So the dash would basically blind the enemies and would lower their block so they couldn't block, and it would last for about 3 seconds. So this would allow Palpatine to get a couple hits in, well, say a couple hits, 3 seconds of hitting, but because on how low his stamina is, like he can't really use the lightning for too long. The more lightning he has, well, say too long, it would be, you'd have more power unleashed on you, but the longer it lasts, basically the less damage you'll have going on. Now this would be the Lightning Storm card, I'm pretty sure, so this would be him, so this could actually help him. So yeah, also the damage will basically stay the same for reinforcements, heroes and infantry for Palpatine, so yeah. Anyways, the next star card would be probably something like, some of these star cards I just don't know what to call. So this star cards I don't know what to call again. Some of them are just, I can't quite figure it out. So the names that I can't quite figure out can go to you guys, and you can think of any names. Basically what this would do would just be extending the amount of time he can use his lightning, and this would actually help with his force lightning. Now the lightsaber wouldn't really get too much of a notice, you could say, because really it's basically already a bit overpowered, you could say. So yeah, and that's morely for the close range combat, if you're up to more close range and fast paced. And yes, he would be able to do about do one swing about in 1 second, so it would be 1 swing a second. So yeah, so you could do about 60 swings a minute. So anyways, this card basically just increases stamina. Oh wait, yeah, the range for this one would be from 20% to 25%, 30%, up to 35%. So the range for the lightning storm would be much larger, you could say. Now the surge, not the surge of lightning. Now this card, well, the extra stamina would go from 10% to 20% to 30% and up to 35%. So or 40. So this would actually help him out a bit, because, well, say a bit, it would allow him to unleash his power a lot longer, and would really help him out. Now the next card would be a health recovery card. His health recovery will be increased from, now this card would probably be called, yeah, I don't know what to call this one either, so any names that I can't quite think of can go to you guys. And for this purpose, I'm trying to keep this video going quite quickly, so it isn't too long. That's why I'm not going to try and think of too many names for the cards immediately. So anyways, this would increase his health recovery from 250 up to 300, and his health recovery delay will be shortened. So this health recovery delay will be shortened. It will be going from 0.5 seconds up to 1 second. So he's already on about 1 second health recovery cooldown. Actually this would just be an extra health recovery. So yeah, just because I think then you would just immediately recover after any damage was done to him, and it would be a bit too overpowered for how this Palpatine is already going. So, and yes, you may say I'm a bit crazy for how powerful I make these concepts, but then I am planning to do a concept for all the other heroes, and they would be quite powerful depending on how powerful they are in lore. So if they're pretty weak in lore, I'm probably going to make them pretty weak for the game. If they're pretty powerful in lore, they're probably going to be pretty powerful in game. Just saying that. Now, the health recovery will be increased. It would go up from 300 health up to 350, 400 and 450. So he'll be able to get 450 health back. So which will basically be half of his, would be 50 more health of his normal health bar, which would be 800. So he can regenerate more of his health, and to break his health regen, you'd have to get him down to some point. Hang on, you'd have to get him down to 300. Wait, no, hang on, I can't remember. So yeah, this would just really just help. So for his health recovery, so we're reaching his last card, which would be quite a powerful card. So his next cards will probably be called Emperor of the Galaxy. Really, I don't know what to call many of these cards anymore. So this would base, now I don't know what to make these cards do. Oh, I know. His lightning attacks would probably deal more damage to heroes. You could say like Yoda's cards, which will make him deal more damage to heroes. Now, this would be on the charged lightning, so this will not affect your lightning if it's not charged up. Now, there would be the easy way to actually counter Palpatine would be to not attack him, because his lightning would be pretty weak without his lightning cards, which would increase his damage. So he basically needs to get attacked if he wants to be anywhere near effective, unless he's actually using the lightning cards, which would increase his lightning damage. That would actually make him a bit more useful. So just saying, so the lightning increased damage cards would basically really help. So what? Oh yeah, increased damage to heroes. Once it's basically you need to absorb a bit of damage, so this will not be too useful for people that know what they're doing. So what it would basically be would be, I mean, for people that know what they're doing, so they wouldn't really be attacking you if they know what to do. Basically, this would go up from 5 damage up to 10, up to 12, and up to 15. And I know I sometimes change the values a bit, but this is just to balance him out. Now on to his last card. At last. Now this card would actually increase his health. So yeah, so this will probably be something called like, I don't know, so it might be called something like I am the Senate or something like that. Probably one of these lines that he says like I am the Senate. I think I am the Senate would suit it. And basically what it would do is basically increase his health, and this would actually be much better than Dooku's card. It would range up from 50 extra health to 100, up to 150 to 200, effectively giving him 1000 health once maxed out. Now this can actually help him, but at the same time it can't, because you won't always have to be dashing and jumping about. This can also help him, but he also has to sort of be jumping and dashing about, and yes, he can block in the air and when he's doing his dashing, so he's already pretty powerful. So, and the health does help him. So the cards you want to be using really for any mode would be his lightning reach cards, the cards that would increase his damage. I mean, that would increase his damage on his lightning to 50. The lightning reach card would actually help for his range, and this card would help out with his health. So yes, you basically want to use I am the Senate, lightning reach, and the cards that actually increases the damage, which I cannot remember the name to. Keep in mind this is just a concept, so don't actually go doing for them, because this is not a real character, because this is not how he actually plays in the game. This is just my version of Palpatine in the game, and I feel like if him having to block to charge up his lightning power actually can really help with how unique he is. Now I think this is something that I didn't really do in my last video, because I simply just did not know what to do, which would be going over the voice lines, and I don't really know many of Vitiate's voice lines, and really I'm not too interested in doing them unless they're pretty well known. Anyways, Palpatine, I think I did the skins for Vitiate last video, so I'll be doing them for Palpatine. He'd probably have a Chancellor outfit, which would be his red robes from Revenge of the Sith, which was actually put him into the prequel trilogy era, you could say, for supremacy and co-op. He'd have 2 other appearances, if not 3 or 4, so he would have the default appearance of the Emperor. However, this would actually be accurate to Return of the Jedi, because this appearance is not accurate. His feet were not showing in Return of the Jedi, and he did have a belt in Return of the Jedi. So this is why this is meant to be more accurate. His next appearance would be his blind appearance from Rise of Skywalker. His next appearance would be the Sith Eternal appearance, which he has in the game. And for the last two appearances, the next appearance will not be too different from his Return of the Jedi appearance, and this would basically just de-age his face, maybe removing the belts, basically giving his look in the prequels where he was in his black robes, but he had the de-aged face and did not have the grey face. That's what I mean. Why did Palpatine just nod when I said it? I thought he nodded. Now the last appearance will probably be an appearance that I don't quite know what to name. It could be like Sith Master or something like that. And you know the red robes he was wearing when he was fighting Maul and Savage Opress? Those would be the robes this appearance would have, and I feel like the Chancellor and this appearance would probably be his most popular appearances, probably because of how popular the prequels are. Now let's get into his lines, shall we? You probably have his "Let the hate flow through you" line, but the next lines would be his next two lines would be pretty, you know, well known. These lines would be "I am the Senate," along with "It's treason then." His last line would probably be the full power of the dark side, which is already what he has in game. So basically it would be "Good, let the hate flow through you. I am the Senate. It's treason then. And now you will experience the full power of the dark side." So that is all for Palpatine. Hope you enjoyed this concept, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.